Hi, welcome to the Game Show Lovers podcast. My name is Josh McLeod. I'm here with Dan Lewis,
Hello.
or as he's sometimes known, Game Show Fan 2001.
Yeah, that's what I'm known as.
And we're doing this pilot as sort of a test to see if people are interested in hearing a game show podcast. And today we're going to be discussing and sort of ranking the hosts of the American versions of Match Game. The
Right.
popular game show with blank emphasis in its title. We'll be playing a few clips from Match Game throughout just to give you an idea.
Oh yeah.
When did you first see Match Game, Dan?
I first saw Match Game maybe as a little kid on the Game Show Network, and I thought it was funny. I remember thinking that Brett Summers and Charles Nelson Riley were like funny people or whatever. But I didn't get all of the humor that was used, but I just thought it was kind of a fun-looking show.
I remember first seeing Match Game PM, and I actually remember the episode. I'm trying to remember the panels. David Doyle, Brett Summers, Fred Grandy, Deborah Lee Scott. It was Dick Martin and Rita Moreno. I'm not sure about if it was Dick or not, but I remember recording that at 12 p.m. on a Saturday and seeing it the next day.
That's a good memory you got there.
Yeah, it's a gift, and a curse at times, but a gift. I'm usually pretty good at remembering this stuff. It doesn't help in any way, shape, or form outside, but hey, helps me remember obscure facts about television shows that me and 9 other people watch. But Match Game, the show that put blank on the map, based on the original 60s format and revamped, we're going to be talking about the 4 hosts that hosted in the United States versions, and we will start with Gene Rayburn. Dan, you go first. What do you think about Gene as a host?
Oh, Gene, he was just awesome. He hosted, 3 or 4 different versions, because you count the 60s version, and then you have the CBS version, and then PM, and then the syndicated version, which was the final run for him. And should we talk about Match Game Hollywood Squares hour as well, or later?
We should, because he did host it, and I would count that, but we don't have to go into it right now. But I would still count that as Match Game that is hosted. Okay. We wouldn't count John Bauman because he didn't. He only hosted the Hollywood Squares portion. But I think Gene was great as the host of Match Game, and I think what made him work over some of the other hosts is he really had that kind of, I don't want to say sleazy, but he had that very tongue-in-cheek used car salesman. He sold
He sold the show.
Yeah, he was definitely, there's a certain hosts and certain formats just work really, really well, and I'd say that was probably the format for Gene Rayburn.
Mm-hmm.
In the same way that Price is Right is really made for Bob Barker. I know it wasn't made for Bob Barker, but he made that show his own. Match Game, it's hard to really associate anyone other than Gene Rayburn in that role, even though there were other subsequent hosts.
Yeah, because when you think of when you think of Gene Rayburn, you think of Match Game immediately, usually. So.
Yeah. And he really made a lot of aspects of that show mainstay. He did the skinny microphone, which I think has been in every version since then.
Mm-hmm. It's a trademark.
Yeah, he was really behind a lot of the voices. Obviously, he did Old Man Periwinkle, Dracula.
Yeah.
He really made that his own, and I think he deserves a lot of credit for that.
I agree. He also had great chemistry with most, if not all, of the panelists that were there over the 9 years that was on CBS.
Who are your favorite panelists? I know there's the obvious regulars, but who would you say are some of your favorites that probably don't get mentioned enough?
Let's see. I liked David Doyle a lot. I liked Richard Dawson in the early years, but towards the end, he just got egotistical and didn't care about the show. But then there was Joyce Bulifant can be funny, even though she's not very good at the game. And then there's Fannie Flagg.
My favorite, I always liked Betty White, and you don't.
Betty White, that's true.
You don't associate her with doing match. I mean, obviously she did. You kind of associate, but it's not one of those ones that she's not one that you think specializes in that type of show. But she did specialize, and she did it a lot, and she did it really, really well.
Yeah. Betty White is known for, she's appeared on numerous game shows, but Match Game's not the first one. Normally, when you think of Betty White, you think of like Password or something like that. But yeah. Mm-hmm. But she was on Match Game many times, which is worthy of noting.
Jimmy Walker.
Well, yeah, he's funny. I like McLean Stevenson.
Yep.
Bill Daly. He passed away a few weeks ago.
Yeah. It's hard to top the original 70s, and we'll get into more versions later, but it never really succeeded after that, I don't think. Do you want to talk about Hollywood Squares, just to glance at it a little bit? I know we watched a little bit of it.
Yeah, it's worthy of mentioning just for a minute, because this is how they thought they could bring it back. It was just after a year after it ended completely in 1982. Yeah, 83. And then they're like, oh, let's merge these two shows together because people love them. And unfortunately, that show's tragic flaw, so to speak, was that they completely messed up the Hollywood Squares portion by turning it into a straight question and answer game instead of how it was when Peter Marshall hosted it.
Right. The match game portion is pretty good.
I mean, it was the same. Gene Rayburn was still the host, and he had the same characteristics and stuff.
I think, well, and also a lot of people don't realize it, but Match Game was heavily influenced by Hollywood Squares. The 70s version was, because that was the impetus of creating a show with more celebrities, which is why Match Game got the 6-celebrity format as opposed to the original version, which was 2 celebrities.
Yeah, 2 celebrities and 2 contestants. No, yeah, 2 celebrities and 4 contestants rather than the 6 celebrities, and that's how it was.
So 1990, Ross Schaefer, what do you think of him?
Ross Schaefer, he wasn't bad. He wasn't the same as Gene Rayburn, and he didn't try to be, which is always good. But I know there were. Have you seen those clips of where there was a whole week of shows where him and Vicki Lawrence just didn't get along?
I haven't seen that. I don't think I have, as odd as that is. I'll have to look into that.
Yeah, it's on YouTube, I think. It was kind of funny. I think it was Ross thought it was scripted, but she didn't know, and I don't know, whatever. It was kind of weird. Mm-hmm. Nowadays, Ross Schaefer makes a living as a motivational speaker. So, yeah, if you go on YouTube, his name, you'll see that stuff.
He never really came off as a traditional game show host. He was sort of an odd choice.
Yeah.
I will say that. And I would put him in the column of he was much more suited to do something like a talk show.
Oh, yeah. Probably.
Yeah. He might have been good. I remember because we watched a little bit of Match Game 90 before recording this. I thought while I was watching he would have been good for something like Name That Tune, maybe. I don't know why that...
More serious show.
Yeah, I don't know why that popped in my head. I thought, he would have been a good host if they ever brought back Name That Tune. I don't know what your thoughts are.
That'd be interesting to see these days with the music we have today.
Yeah. I don't know how... obviously we have shows like Beat Shazam, but they're not quite the same as Name That Tune.
Yeah, they modernize it, basically.
Yeah. What did you think of just the 90s version in general?
I mean, I didn't dislike the 1990 version. I think that ABC, it could have had a chance if ABC didn't put it in the noon time slot, which caused a lot of stations to not carry it because that's when most of them have the news. And, they also did a good job because Charles Nelson Riley, he was there for most of them. And Brett Summers was there for just a couple weeks. But, they didn't try to duplicate the 70s version, but they did a good job at trying to modernize it and still have a lot of old celebrities that were on.
Yeah.
And a few new ones, but yeah.
I remember Fred Travellini. I thought he was really the standout on that series as a guest.
He was an impressionist.
But you also had a lot that didn't do the original version, that did, like Sally Struthers and Vicki Lawrence, who you'd think would have done the original more, but they were more prone to do this version.
Yeah, well, actually, Vicki Lawrence was on the premiere week in 1973, and then 1 week in 1978. I don't remember which one, but yeah, she was on for exactly 2 weeks in the 70s, 5 years apart, and she was a semi-regular in the 1990 version, but yeah.
I like this. I remember liking it a lot when I was 10 years old, because it was the last piece of Game Show Network media I saw before Game Show Network on the cable package that I had became the Outdoor Life Network. So the last episode I ever saw was an episode of Match Game 90 with a $10,000 win. Remember, I really liked the 90s version. I assume you want to talk about Matchup?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
That's exactly what it was.
Takes away from the comedic tone of the show. I think it makes it more fair. It makes it more of a competition, but at the same time, I don't think anyone wanted to watch it Match Game for the competition in the same way that no one wanted to watch Hollywood. I mean, I don't want to say no one, but the majority of people didn't want to watch Hollywood Squares for the game portion of it. They wanted it for the comedy portion.
That's right.
I get why they did it. I think they would have been better off. It didn't necessarily need to be another round, but maybe they could have thought of another way to do kind of a comedic catch-up round. I don't know what that would have been or how that would have worked. If somebody out there has an idea, please let us know.
But like, I wonder which one of those guys of the staff members came up with that. I mean, I get it because it's kind of like the Supermatch round where you fill in a blank to a random phrase and you check it. I mean, it wasn't a bad thing, but I think it would have been better if they didn't do it after they did one round, normal round, then a matchup round, then the final normal round, then the final matchup round, and then the one with the most points was the winner. They would have done better if there was only one speed round, I think.
That's a good idea. I heard it was Jonathan Goodson. So
interesting. Just a little briefly, if you saw any clips of the Canadian version from a couple years ago, they brought back matchup, but they only had it for one round instead of two. So, yeah.
I watched that version. I don't remember much about it because I'm not Canadian. Yeah. I don't even remember. Do you remember who the host of the Canadian? And we made a pact. We're only going to talk about the American. You'll notice we're not talking about Burt Convy or Fred Willard or any of the failed pilots because I don't want to speak for Dan, but I don't really see the point in discussing something that never ended up airing. Mm-hmm. Do you remember who hosted the Canadian version?
The Canadian version was hosted by a guy named Darren Rose. He's like a comedian or something. I saw him because there's a show in Canada called Video on Trial where a bunch of celebrities just look at popular music videos and just make fun of them, and he was a regular on that show. That's what I remember. And Colin Mockery, if you're a Whose Line Is It Anyway fan, he was on the Canadian match game a few times.
Well, I remember Greg Grunberg from Alias was on it, and I remember from Community. Yvette Nicole Brown.
Yeah, that's it. And Drake and Josh, too.
Do you want to talk about Michael Berger, the 1998 syndicated series?
Yes. Okay. Oh, yes. A lot of people in the game show world don't really like the 1998 version.
Again, I hadn't seen a full episode before this week, and I watched an episode at work, and I can see why they don't like it.
Which episode was it?
It was the one that Mandel
Mandel-Logan?
Yeah, Mandel-Logan, the episode he was in. So the one Richard Jenny, Vicki Lewis, that's someone else. Vicki Lawrence, Nell Carter, and Judy Tenuta, and I can't remember.
Joshua Morrow. He was from the soap opera Young and the Restless. Yeah.
Okay. You think I remember my namesake? I think at that first let's talk Mike Berger. What do you think about Michael Berger as host?
Mike Berger, he's a good host. It seems like he's fit for the job because he's hosted other things, and nowadays he does like Family Feud live at I don't know where he does it for, but have you seen that before?
I haven't seen it, but I knew he did that, and I think didn't he do Price is Right live for Harrah's or some casino? Yeah, I remember him first seeing him. He did a pilot that aired, so we can talk about it, called Storm the Castle. I don't know if you've seen that. It was ABC aired it. It was based on a Japanese format. And I thought he was really good at that. And he's one of those hosts that I feel would be really good and really well remembered if he could find a format to host that worked. He just never had the luck as a host. What did you think of him in Match Game?
I mean, it seemed like he had a good time hosting it, and but I think the concept of Match Game of the 98 version, it wasn't as good because they made some unnecessary changes.
Mm-hmm. 5-contestant panel. I don't know if that was to save money or time or what.
Yeah, and the set, they went through 2 different sets, even though they lasted a year. But people think the second set was better than the first one. I don't know if you've seen both of them, but
I don't know. I know I didn't like the set that I saw. So
yeah. Yeah, they had 5 celebrities, and instead of the questions in the 70s and 1990 version, contestants chose between question A or question B, which you would think is just fine. But in the 1988 version, they had pun-laden categories for the questions, which was but some people think was unfair. I mean, I don't think it was great, but it wasn't a horrible addition to the game. But I'd rather have A and B, to be honest.
It wasn't necessary. I don't. Just looking at it from afar as a person, I don't see the point in it other than it didn't hurt anything. It didn't help anything.
Yeah. And also in 1998, they kept a $5,000 top prize, which was the exact same one as it was in 1973. Mm-hmm. And it was a cheap show. Well,
there's a theory that someone had, which was that the money doesn't matter at the end of the day, or the amount of money doesn't matter, and I don't disagree with that. I think you could make the top price $500, but if it's a good enough show, it doesn't matter.
Yeah, maybe.
Well, think about it. Like, What's My Line? What was the top prize on that show?
I don't remember.
It was like $50 or $200 or $50 or like $200 or something.
Yeah, but that was in the 1950s.
Well, even then, I mean, we had other. Yeah, but that show was on it went into the 70s as well, and
that is true.
then you had shows like I've Got a Secret, which had no prize, or at least no prize that we ever saw. You just got a fee for agreeing to be on the show. So, I don't think the prize money makes a big difference. As long as
it doesn't make a big deal. It's just something to note, I guess.
Well, Price is Right. We went the original version of Price is Right, the Bill Cullen version, which aired in the 50s. They were giving away things that cost 5-figure prizes, and then the 70s version, we go back to, I think they were giving away cars with 4 digits, and the first digit would be a 2.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think it matters all that much as long as it's a good format, and I don't think it matters in this case. I think $5,000 is fine.
Oh yeah.
For it, but I think it's big. I think the big problem is the show just didn't work because I think by 98, and this will come more so when we get to the Alec Baldwin version, I think by that point there was really no reason to, because what made the original show good was the double entendre nature of it. But by 1990, go ahead.
And in the 70s when they had those questions that would make people think of a dirty answer, but they can't write that on the card. You have to think of something else. But in 1998, it didn't matter because
they would write the dirty answer.
Yeah.
So it was sort of a what's the point? That's always been my problem with doing Match Game Again. It's, well, what's the point? There's no double entendre anymore. We can just write down the dirty answer. So.
But there were several times in the 1998 version when they did have censored answers, and I don't know if you heard about this, but there was one occasion where the contestant's answer was censored, and he matched all 5 celebrities. So no one got to know what the answer was.
Didn't that happen on the Alec Baldwin version too? I haven't watched the Alec Baldwin version regularly, but
neither do I. But I don't remember hearing about that.
I know there was one where like every answer got censored, or the contestant. But I know the episode I watched, they censored Richard Jeni's answer. So.
Oh yeah, if you look on Mandel's website through the Internet Archive, it says what Richard Jeni said on that one question.
Okay, we'll link.
We'll link what?
Yeah, we'll link his episode, and as well as some of the other episodes we use clips from. Very brief clips, because we don't want to get nicked. But, I think the 98 version just... What did you think of the final match round?
The final match? What do you mean?
The super match, sorry.
Oh, super match. Well, let's see. In 1990, they kept the Star Wheel, which was fine, because that's how it was at the end of the CBS version. But then in 1998, they got rid of that, and I can kind of see why, because they were on a low budget. The Star Wheel... gave the opportunity for more money, but to be honest, the main reason why they introduced it is so the contestants would stop picking Richard Dawson every time at the end of the show.
And so then we get this version where they pick Vicki Lawrence every time.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't get the point in them coming down to match other than to, I guess, increase tension. But
oh yeah, and there's a difference because in 1998 they let the celebrity and contestant make eye contact and try to signal to each other what it could have been. I don't know what point of that was, but in the 70s you had to face away from the panelists. Yeah. So
I feel like that's a dead giveaway.
Yeah,
it's not like you can make eye contact. Okay, then I'm going to turn you around and then read the question. It's you can look at them and give them eye contact, and you can watch them write the answer down. I mean, you can't see what they're writing, but you can see their hand, and you can see kind of the motions.
Their hand motions. I gotcha.
So that can give you an idea of what they might be writing down. I didn't like it. I thought Michael Berger was fine as a host, but I just didn't like that version of the show. I don't think it was his fault.
I gotcha. Yeah. He did good, given what he had to deal with.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. So
do we want to go to the Alec Baldwin version?
Yes, we do. Or as
I like to call it, Alec Baldwin needs beer money. And I know that it's popular. Clearly, people like it. But I remember when it premiered. I watched the first question, and I was just like, nope, no, thank you. Now, for the record, I did watch half an episode, like a full game. Because each episode now has 2 games worth.
Oh yeah, because they do a 1-hour show, because that's how ABC does.
Yeah. I don't think maybe you know something I don't, but I don't feel like I missed anything by not watching the second half.
Yeah.
Because I remember the first. Well, no, actually, let's talk about Alec Baldwin. What do you think about Alec Baldwin as a host?
He's not that bad as a host, but he's certainly not Gene Rayburn, though.
Yeah. Again, I remember because before coming here, I watched an episode on my own, and I remember thinking he's not bad as I remember. It does feel like he's very disjointed from the show, and it feels like he's reading teleprompters, I've noticed.
I wonder how Alec Baldwin got the gig. I wonder if he had, like, what competitors he had.
That would be interesting to know.
Because it's not like he's ever hosted a game show before, not to my knowledge.
I'm trying to think. I don't think he's ever hosted. Has he ever been a panelist on a game show? I don't think so.
I know he was on Bergeron Squares a few times.
Okay, I guess that's something. I don't know if I would really count Alec Baldwin, because especially during those. The one thing I really didn't like was his things where he come out like, "Welcome to Match Game." It's the show that, where 6 celebrities sit, and he would do some crummy joke. I just didn't like that.
That's funny.
Yeah, sit like it's the six celebrities, bring us thrilling competition by sitting or something. And it was just like, okay, they didn't need that in the original version. I don't know why you need it here.
I do like the current version because it's done the best job of like modernizing the original set because it looks closer to it rather than the 90 and 98 version.
Yeah.
And they have the classic theme, which is it sounds like the original 70s version, unlike 1990 where they did like well, not really a remix, but like they had trumpets and saxophones in it. It sounded more jazzy instead of the 70s one. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Well, they're trying to appeal to the demographic of the original version by using the same music. The set, it's not quite the same coloring, but it's the same basic format. It's the 2-question format, and I noticed this watching it that he's wearing an earpiece. I don't know if that's a hearing aid or if he's got a producer in his ear telling him not to say. I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt and say that it's a hearing aid.
I would think it's both. No.
Okay. I just noticed that watching it. I'm like, what's that in his ear? And maybe I was searching for things not to like. I will acknowledge that. And if you like the Alec Baldwin as a host, far be it from us to tell you what you should and shouldn't think.
Oh yeah.
I just remember it felt very disjointed. He wasn't bad, but I feel like they could have done better for a host.
Yeah.
I feel like they picked him for name value.
Possibly.
First episode I ever saw, which I believe is the first episode they ever aired, I remember the turnoff for me was, because I remember the exact question, maybe not the exact question, but the basic question, which is, they're having a sale at the sex shop. Yeah, they're giving out free samples of blank. And the contestant said lube or something.
Oh, I think I know what you're talking. I've seen this before. Yeah.
Contestant said lube, and most of the celebrities said lotion, except some of them said edible panties. And what turned it off to me is it's like, well, what was the point of the question if you can flat out say lube, then it's not really double entendre at that point. It's just entendre.
Yeah.
Yeah. I watched that one question. I was like, I don't need to watch any more of this. No, thank you.
What do you think of some of the panelists we've had on the newest version?
Well, I don't like Rosie O'Donnell as a person. Unfortunately, the episode I watched, she wasn't on.
Oh.
So, I'm glad I didn't have to see her.
Good.
Charlotte, the episode I had Charlotte Ray. She was, Charlotte Ray. That's the woman from Facts of Life. Caroline Ray.
Caroline Ray. Oh,
Caroline
I got you.
Ray.
Yeah.
Thank you, Brain. Canadian. She was good. I liked her. I don't remember I don't remember any of the other 5 because none of them were celebrities that are in my wheelhouse. I remember Michael Ian Black was in the first episode. I thought he was good, but I just
from the episodes I have in my collection, there was JB Smoove, there was Sherry Shepherd, Jason Alexander. Jason Alexander.
Yeah, he's good.
There was Kenny G. Do you know who that is?
I'm assuming we're referring to the singer, the Trump.
Yeah, that's singer, saxophone player, and I don't know if you saw his episode, but when they came back from a commercial, instead of the regular theme music, they just had Kenny G playing the theme on his little saxophone, whatever it is.
I think it's a tenor.
No, soprano saxophone.
Soprano sax, yeah. Got nothing bad to say about Kenny G.
I enjoyed that.
That won't stop me from joking about him. Did you see the Sarah Palin clips? Or episode?
I vaguely. like a long time ago, but I don't remember much about it.
I haven't seen them either. I'm told they were bad. I can't fight it. They probably were bad because she's not a comedian.
Mm-hmm.
So,
she's a politician.
if that, and some would argue with that. I can't comment on her one way. I wasn't allowed to vote in the 2008 election, so I'll shut up. Yeah, I just don't see, again, and I guess it's doing well critically, but I just don't see I think the problem with Match Game is there's no double entendre anymore. That era is dead. It's if you can get up and say jack off on television, then there's no point in it anymore.
Yeah, nowadays you can say penis on television and all sorts of stuff you couldn't say back in the 70s version.
Did you ever watch the Behind the Blank, the GSN documentary about Match Game?
Yeah, you're referring to the clip with Marsha Wallace?
Yes.
Yeah, I know more about that.
Yeah. Well, I remember from that documentary, they were interviewing Jimmy Walker, and he has a great quote that I always point to, which was, because if you remember early on, someone said boobs, and there was a big thing, like, can you say boobs? Can we say boobs? I don't know, can we say boobs? Someone said, yeah, you can say boobs. And then Jimmy Walker, in the present day, says, now they're showing boobs on network television.
Yeah, they interviewed him, and he was like, they're showing them boobs now. That's what he said.
So it takes away the fun of it, of saying boobs, when you can just turn on the TV and see boobs pretty much everywhere. And hear it, too.
Yeah, I mean, you can say boob. If you ever watched iCarly, they said boobs on iCarly many times.
Well, I think they're spelling it B-E-W-B-S, which is not the same as B-O-O-B-S.
Yeah, but it's the same meaning, though, let's be honest.
That's a double entendre. It works there. I mean, I don't watch iCarly, but...
Yeah, don't make fun of me for watching iCarly.
I won't.
I'm talking to the viewers.
Okay. By the way, Dan is only 8 years old, for those who don't know.
I'm 17.
Okay. Yeah. So, but overall, I would say I love going back to watch the old Match Game. I think it's still the #1 rated show on GSN.
Oh, yeah, that's true. They've been showing it ever since they've been on.
Yeah. Which says something about the longevity of a show that was made in 1973, that it still attracts college-age viewers in 2018. So...
Mm-hmm.
Overall, I love Match Game, and I guess we need to. I guess we need to do a kind of a final ranking of the hosts. So, you want me to go first while you think about it?
Yeah, you can go first.
Because I've thought about this for a while. I mean, Gene is obviously #1.
Right.
I'm going to go a little controversial. I'm going to say that Michael Berger is #2 as host.
Okay.
Maybe not his version, but him as a host, I would say is #2. Ross Schaefer. And Alec Baldwin. I think, the more I think about it, I'm going to put Alec Baldwin above Ross Schaefer.
Okay.
And then Ross Schaefer I'm going to put at the end. Again, I don't think Ross Schaefer did a bad job. I just don't think he's a game show guy. I think he's got much more serious... but he had a very dry wit. I think he's more suited to something like a talk show, which I'm kind of surprised... Well, I guess he did have a talk show in the late 80s. So never mind.
And he hosted a show called Love Me, Love Me Not, or something like that.
I haven't seen a single clip of it, so...
Me neither.
Okay. I know a lot of the game show people listening to this, how dare you not see that? And it's like, I'm sorry.
Whatever, man. We can't watch every game show, some of us.
Yeah. Well, we weren't alive. We'll never see episodes of... What was that show Dennis James hosted that like all the tapes are gone? I mean, a lot of the tapes are gone for a lot of them, but I
don't know.
I know there's one show he hosted that's like gone forever. Anyway, Dan, how would you rate the hosts?
I would put let's see, Gene Rayburn obviously #1. Let's put Michael Berger at second, just because he's probably more of a game show guy than Ross was. Although I would rather watch the 1990 than the 98 version, but yeah.
Same
then
here.
I would actually put Ross Schaefer third, above Baldwin, and then Baldwin fourth.
Hey, I just realized we didn't talk about Ricky Lake. Anyway, moving on.
So Should we talk about that or not?
I hadn't seen it, so I did watch her hosting the Let's Make a Deal portion and the Beat the Clock portion, because I remember really enjoying those at the time, but I was like 15, I think, so she wasn't.
I saw the Match Game part of that.
How was it?
It was okay. Once again, they did like a modernization of the set, but this time it looked very close to the original. Like they might have used the exact same one because it was orange, and the celebrity panel was like George Foreman, Kathy Griffin, Bruce Villain, Betty White, and
Adam Carolla.
Yeah, he was there too.
By the way, Adam Carolla is a good one on the new version.
I'll
give him that.
I'd agree with that.
Yeah.
They did the A and B format there, which wasn't that bad. Some people didn't seem to like Ricky Lake just as a host of that whole marathon. I don't know why.
She wasn't really a host. Well, no, I guess she was a host. Again, she was sort of like Ross Schaefer in that she was really more talk showy than game showy.
Yeah, that's true.
But yeah, I'd say that we've covered Match Game. You can read more about it in Adam Nedeff's book, Matchless Gene Rayburn. Go buy that if you don't already have a copy.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can you should do that, and you can watch the Behind the Blank if you can find it. I think it's on Vimeo. I don't know if it's on YouTube still.
I think it's on YouTube.
I know I saw it there. I'm not sure. I know it got taken down at one point. So.
Okay. And also, you guys should watch it on Buzzer if you have it. If you don't have Buzzer, then watch it on GSN. But pick Buzzer over GSN.
Yeah. Or watch you can find, and even then, you can find most episodes. You can find a lot of Match Game online pretty easily. So.
Yeah.
So yeah, Match Game. And that, I think, does it for this test podcast thing. If you like what you heard, please let us know. If you hate what you heard, please let us know.
Oh, yeah.
And we will adjust accordingly. Dan, thanks for doing this with me.
Oh, no problem.
All right.
Anytime.
So until next time, it's always hard to see the end when you're beginning. Take care.
Coming up next is Legends of PBA with Jason DeCanio live at 4 p.m. Eastern, only on the David 3000 Network.
Don't forget to subscribe to the David 3000 Network for great more content like this one.